will know one of their web browsers, Firefox. And Brendan Eich, a man big in the technology industry, well, he was forced to step down because in 2008 he gave $1,000 to a campaign to keep marriage between one man and one woman in California. Our friends at truthrevolt.org aren't taking this sitting down. They've launched a campaign to say, look, stop using Firefox. Here's the statement from Ben Shapiro and company. Mozilla recently forced its CEO, Brendan Eich, to resign over his personal support for traditional marriage. Going forward, we urge you to consider a different browser for accessing truthrevolt.org. Ben Shapiro joins us now from Los Angeles with a little bundle of joy sitting in his lap, his daughter Leah. Ben, you didn't bring Leah along to make a political point, did you? No?
No, I didn't actually. My wife just had to do some Passover shopping, so she's making her first TV appearance. Here she is.
All right.
And,
looks lovely. Now, let me ask you about...
she's ready for her close-up.
And sorry to introduce Leah to such a topic, but your take on this. This guy supports something 8 years ago. It's something that's still illegal in most of the United States. Held the position the president held, and he's fired?
Well, that's the way it works now in the United States. Unfortunately, there's a new totalitarianism that's pervading the left that suggests that if you disagree with me, then I get to use both the power of government and the power of the market against you. Now, look, it's not illegal what Mozilla did. It's not illegal what OkCupid did to try and force the resignation of Brendan Eich. What is problematic is that these are the same folks who are suggesting that the government should do exactly the same thing, that should crack down on businesses that supposedly discriminate against same-sex marriage. And that's deeply problematic, and that's deeply troubling. So we're living in an age, unfortunately, where it's very dangerous to be a religious person in the United States, and that scares me. It scares, a lot of religious folks in the United States. Really, if you can give a $1,000 donation 6 years ago, and this is enough to get you fired from an apolitical company, a company with no politics whatsoever, despite the fact you've never discriminated, despite the fact there's no evidence of discrimination, then I'm not sure what American free speech stands for anymore.
Well, here's what the executive chairwoman of Mozilla said. To me, this reads as we should have fired him faster. Mozilla prides itself on being held to a different standard, and this past week, we didn't live up to it. We know why people are hurt and angry, and they are right. It's because we haven't stayed true to ourselves. We didn't act like you'd expect Mozilla to act. We didn't move fast enough to engage with people once the controversy started. We're sorry. We must do better. To me, that says we should have fired him faster. We shouldn't have let him be the man that started the company. We shouldn't have, hired the guy that started JavaScript.
100%. I mean, this is the entire problem here. Is they suggested they were for equality and free speech. There's nothing less pro-equality, less pro-free speech than the concept that you are supposed to fire people simply because you get some backlash for their political viewpoint. I mean, this is what the left is really about. If the left didn't have any double standards, if the left didn't have double standards, they would have no standards at all. Obviously, if they applied to the same standards to the idea that Christian companies could fire gay folks, for example, then they would be up in arms. But the idea that a completely secular company can fire a Christian person simply for giving money and having no other, really position with regard to this, especially in the public sphere, then we're living in a very scary age. And I encourage everybody out there who's using Mozilla Firefox to take that off of their computer and to begin using alternative methods of browsing the internet.
You know what? Thankfully, not everybody is saying that this is the right way to go. Andrew Sullivan, just one of many voices on, he would say he's a conservative. I'd put him on the gay left, who's come forward and said, if this is what we're about now, then count me out. You're right. This is doing to straight people who have a different point of view exactly what you said shouldn't have been done to you 20, 30 years ago.
That's exactly right. And it is incredible how the right to privacy, which is what the left based its entire support for gay rights on, has now completely flipped. The right to privacy is now completely out the window when it comes to people who are not pro-gay rights. If you're pro-gay rights, then you have a right to absolute privacy, even for things you do in public, like publicly sanctioned same-sex weddings. However, if you're on the right, if you're somebody who believes in traditional marriage, then even your private views on that matter are enough to get you fired. And that's a very dangerous precedent to set in the United States.
Okay, so this company that started this, OkCupid, I guess it's a dating site or some such, they said, we're pleased that OkCupid's boycott has brought tremendous awareness to the critical matter of equal rights for all individuals and partnerships. It turned out that their CEO gave money to a candidate that didn't back gay marriage. Is he going to be forced out as well?
Oh, of course not. Hypocrisy is the hallmark of the left. And if standards actually mattered to them, they never would have taken this measure in the first place. Of course it doesn't. And so we will be, continuing to point that out and continuing to encourage Americans and people of good faith across the world to uninstall Mozilla Firefox. And we will also be targeting OkCupid in the future, because the fact is that this sort of fascist thought should not go unanswered. And look, are these tactics that we like? Of course not. But there's only one thing that's worse than having nuclear weapons for purposes of mutually assured destruction. That's having nuclear weapons used against you. It's about time for people of good faith with regard to free speech to fight back using whatever means are necessary.